Hey, welcome to Dad Space, this podcast for dads by dads. I'm Dave. I'm a dad. Nice to be here with you. Welcome to the podcast. I have today with me Collin Hughes. Collin is a former bull rider, pilot, and voiceover actor. Collin is coming to us today to share his dad story and grandfather story. 2-for-1 deal here. There's no bull for this episode. No bull. They've all been taken care of. This is Dad Space. I'm really excited to have Collin on the podcast today. So here we go. Here's Collin. Hey everyone, welcome to Dad Space, a podcast for dads by dads. And today, I can tell you and guarantee that there will be no bull during this podcast. Not 1 ounce of bull. But my guest has been on many bulls. He's flown through the sky. He is an actor that uses his voice to help people and share a message. He's here on the Dad Space. I'm so glad to have Collin. Welcome to the podcast. Great to have you here, my friend.
Thank you so much. No bull, huh? Well, talking about bulls means that there's bull in this podcast today.
But we will not actually see a physical bull stampede through our podcast at any point.
Oh man, you're taking all the fun out of it for me.
All right, so I'm on your website that it's coming, and you got updates here for us. You had 3 dreams as a child, as I'm reading from your website. You wanted to be a cowboy, a pilot, and an actor.
Correct.
Ding, ding, and ding. That's amazing. You've already accomplished so much in such a young life. Come on now.
Was what's the Yakov Smirnov? You ever heard of him?
Yes, I have. Yes.
Comedian from Russia. He's now a United States citizen. And he talks about this country. What a country!
Well, good that you could do all that, and I think you did all 3 in one weekend or something like that.
Oh no. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah,
so I want to know off the bat, riding a bull, and there's a picture of you on this beast. I don't know how anyone could strap themselves to something that huge and powerful. I don't know if I'd be more afraid in the stall before the gate opens or after the gate opens. Can you tell me which is the most fearful
inside
time?
The bucking chute?
Yes, please. When is the most fearful spot?
Inside of the bucking chute, it can actually be a very dangerous place to be. It's if you got a bull that's acting up in there, and he could flip over on you, and I've had that happen.
Wow.
Or jump up real hard and kick with his hind end and throw you into the fronts of the metal chutes, and you got to know how to get out on a bull too, to be able to ride him without. And I saw a video of this kid who was practicing somewhere, and the people that he was working with certainly had no clue of what they were doing. The bull got jumping around, and the kid came off, was underneath the bull. His hand was hung up in the rope. And the ideal thing they should have done is got his hand out of the rope and then opened the gate. These people just flung open the gate. His hand is hung up in the rope, and when he breaks free, he's right behind the bull, standing up, and he gets kicked smacked in the face. If they'd have gotten his hand out of the rope, they could have pulled him up out of there as the bull exited. Yeah, I remember one of the times when I got underneath the bull in the chutes. I was actually at a bull riding school that a lot of guys, they'll go to these places, to get on bulls before the season starts and stuff. And I was at one, and one of my mentors, Sandy Kirby, many times national finals bull rider, many times national finals bareback bronc rider. And we were in somewhere in South Texas, and there were these Charolais bulls. It's a white looking bull. that muleys, we call them, they don't have horns, all these white muleys. And all these young kids, they're fighting over which ones are going to get on those white muleys. They buck pretty good and they're just, and no horns and all these kids. And so I'm walking to put my rope on another bull. And Sandy walked up this kid putting his rope on one of those muleys and told him to take it off there. And he looks at me, he says, "You haven't been on anything that really bucks yet, have you?" I said, what do you need? He says, "Put it on this bull right here." So I'm getting down in the chutes, I'm getting on, and I can't remember where at in the phase of preparation I was, but this bull just, without notice, just reared up, straight up, and then came back over on top of me. It's like I'm standing up, and his back, I'm back in the corner of the chutes with him right on top of me. So, just like I said, they got my hand out, somebody held me, and then they pulled me up as they were letting the bull out. That's how it should have been done. But the funny thing about it was, Sandy jumped up on the back of the chute, says, "Y'all still want to fight over those white muleys?"
So, okay, how much does an average bull weigh? Just ballpark. Do we have an idea?
Oh, it varies a lot. There's some of the smaller bulls be about 1,400 or so, and maybe 1,200, on the really light end. But I've been on a bull that was probably 2,300 pounds.
Holy smokes, that's a car.
Yeah, he was a national finals eliminator bull of Mike Servy's. His brand was HR. And by eliminator bull, the National Finals Rodeo. Yeah, the National Finals Rodeo is where the top 15 cowboys and all the events and cowgirls from all the events, bareback riding, saddle bronc riding, calf roping, team roping, steer wrestling, barrel racing, the 3 riding events, anyway, all of the events, the top 15 money winners throughout the regular season year get to compete in the National Finals Rodeo. And there's 10 days of it, 10 performances, and all 15 compete in every single performance each night. And there's 2 go rounds that they say that the eliminators, both in the bareback riding, or all in bareback riding, saddle bronc riding, and the bull riding, they all have this bucking stock they call eliminators. They are the ones that are hard to ride. It doesn't mean that if you ride them that you're going to win a whole lot of money on them. Because if you get on the, the rank ones that, just crank it and really buck, that's where the money is. Because these eliminators, and that's what HR was. He was an eliminator. And he's so big that they have to leave the butt gate open and put a rope behind him because he's too big for the bucking chutes.
Oh, wow.
And I had him at Sydney, Iowa, my hometown rodeo, my rookie year in the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association. And, Sydney, that's rodeo I went to watching as a kid. And I always, I can't wait. When I can be a full member of the PRCA, because when you join the PRCA, you get what they call a permit. You have to win so much money on a permit to become a full member and compete in the rodeos that would not take permits. In the big rodeos, they don't take permits at all. And some of the, most of the smaller ones will, and then some of the, good paying rodeos will, but they'll have what they call permits max. You got enough members to enter, and the permit holders don't get in. These kids say they got maxed out.
Yeah.
But anyway, so this is my first year as a full member of the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association at my hometown rodeo, one that I've been dreaming of competing in. And Sydney has these traditional huge wood bucking chutes, like we're back in the olden days. Now, in bull riding, most of these guys, if they would put their hand on the top board of the bucking chutes, their hand would be up above their heads. When I got on HR, my elbow was resting on it.
Oh, oh, well, that's a beast. Oh my gosh.
And so I got my rope pulled and my wrap taken, and I'm just getting ready to slide up on my hand and nod for the gate. And I could feel him pressing back against that butt rope, like he's going to use it as a rubber band to slingshot him out of there. And I actually started, it's the first time I remember really being afraid, being scared
Yeah.
to get on one. I'm reaching down for the tail of my rope to get off of him. And Mark Baker, the shoot boss, he looks down at me and says, my nickname is Goose, says, come on, Goose. He's not going to stand like that all day. And so I just, and without hesitation, I just jumped up on my hand and says, let's go. And
Oh
I
my
took him
gosh.
about 7.5 seconds when he usually left people sitting there right in the gate. And I took him 7.5 seconds. I came so close to riding him.
That
Because
probably be
you
the
got to ride for
longest 7.5 seconds I think ever. I would be
you got to ride for 8 seconds. And
really. Oh
yeah,
wow.
and he oh man, oh man, oh man. I just come that close to riding that brute at my hometown rodeo. I was heartbroken. Oh, it was yeah.
So the complete opposite of riding a bull and eating dirt. Then you're a pilot soaring through the skies,
Oh, oh,
flying. Like what a
oh,
difference,
oh,
right?
oh yeah.
What a
Oh
difference. Um, you're still in control of a beast and strapped in there and doing all that, but now you're in a totally different context. What takes you to a pilot seat? I'm always curious on a little bit behind that journey as well.
well, like I say, when I was a child, I had three dreams: be a cowboy, be a pilot, be an actor, and I just went after them all. And one of the things that influenced me to get my private pilot license in 1980 is before that, a guy that I traveled with to some rodeos had his own airplane. I thought, you know what? This would be a good way for me to travel myself to rodeos. So in 1980, I went out, took my first flight, and I was out flying almost, every day that I could, I was out flying. And less than 2 months, I had my private pilot certificate.
Hmm.
I would have had it faster than that if it wasn't for weather. But then I thought, I'll use this to go to rodeos with. And I really didn't use it that much to go to rodeos. So I just kind of flew off and on, here and there, just sometimes for fun, sometimes to go somewhere and just fly. And then after I stopped riding bulls, I started to announce rodeos. And that's where I learned my love of the microphone. And it's just, you put me behind a microphone in a stadium with thousands of people. I'm like, we're going to have us some fun. And so I'm out here traveling so hard, going to all these rodeos that I'm announcing, driving all night and this and the road, it just wore me down. So I finally thought, you know what? I got to do something else. And I thought to myself, well, I got my private pilot certificate. Let's just go ahead and get the rest of the ratings. So in 1999, I got my instrument rating. 2000, I got my commercial rating, and that does not allow you to fly for an airline. Commercial pilot certificate is not what airline pilots have. They have something higher than that. So a commercial pilot certificate allows you to do, anything that pays pretty much except for flying for an airline.
Okay.
And then I got my certified flight instructor as well right after I got my commercial pilot certificate. I managed a couple flight schools, so I didn't build hours as fast as because at that point I still hadn't thought of the airlines, but I was flying. I was flying. My dream was coming true. I was just flying. And 2005, I got my first job flying a jet, doing charter work. And when I was doing that job, my total time surpassed the amount of hours required for an airline transport pilot certificate, which is 1,500 hours. So I got my ATP and continued with charter flying for a year. Then for a few years, I worked at Flight Safety International as a simulator instructor. With they have professional charter pilots, corporate pilots, all these different types of business jets that they teach in the simulators. And in 2008, I was grounded for medical reasons for a little while. And when I got my medical certificate back in 2010, I just did a little bit here and there. But then one day I walked down to there was a pilot job fair in Vegas. And I went there and I got my first airline job.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, flying jets, flying the bigger jets. Yeah. And that's how it came to be.
Beautiful. All right. So we're here on Dad Space talking about our dad story. And what I love talking about your background in riding and flying. And we're going to get to your voice acting as well. But your dad's story is probably one of the things I really wanted to focus in on.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because your story has a lot of twists and turns. There's a lot of bumps in the road, and there's a lot of victories as well, which I'm excited to talk about. So let's jump back to the early days of being a dad, and maybe some of the things that when you look back of those early days, some of those things that you wish that you could go back to and maybe take another shot at, or take a different landing approach. There you go. Differing another approach at from a dad's perspective with hindsight. Because I think as dads, so often we're learning as we go. Right. And if we had all the perfect training and we've been through the simulator, again, airline speak, gone through the simulator, you had all your testing, but you still haven't flown yet. You haven't actually taken off. Right. As a parent, as a dad, you can study as many things as you want, but there's going to come a day when the wheels leave the ground and you're actually flying. As a dad, that's a little unnerving. So as you look back, what kind of things would you kind of look at and go, you know what, Dave, if I had a chance, one thing really stands out.
My early years as a father is nothing to be an example for others. It's my first daughter, I didn't even actually meet her until she was 15. She was a product of a youthful indiscretion. And my first marriage had 4 daughters. And this is the point, I was trying to change my life of drinking and chasing women, all that kind of stuff. And I was trying to change my life around, and it was a lot tougher than what I thought. And so with my first marriage, I was following the footsteps of my father, being a drinker and a womanizer. And I didn't treat the girl's mother very well. I, was short-tempered and angry, just angry so much that I didn't even know what I was angry so much with until later in life. And that was, from childhood abuse that I'd gone through. That I had to deal with to actually become a better person. So as you can imagine, my ways in my first marriage wound up in divorce. And my ex-wife remarried a gentleman who's retired military. And they asked if he could adopt them so that my daughters could have the military benefits, insurance and whatever else came with that.
Yeah.
I thought, that's more than I can afford to pay in child support. So yeah, I'd be good for them. But when I signed those documents. It was afterwards that I realized that I really now had no right whatsoever to even talk to those girls. And so they grew up without me. In 2004, the second of the two found me through Facebook and reached out and wanted to have a relationship. We met in the visitor center, and the visitor center at the Salt Lake City Temple Square, and everything was going good. We getting to know each other, and then she got pressure, I'm guessing, and the relationship stopped. And later on, she reached out again, and I thought, well, okay, yeah, let's try it again. And once again, it stopped. Then during this time, after that, I'd met my wife now of 17 years. That I truly, with her, is the first time that I realized how to love somebody and how to treat somebody and to be the kind of man that my wife deserves. And my daughter reached out again, and my wife, she's a social worker. I wasn't going to reply. And my wife says, "Oh, you need to, honey." She's all about relationships. "Oh, honey, you can build this relationship, and just, she's really reaching out. She really wants to know you and have a relationship." And I said, "Honey, I can't go through that." Then finally I says, "Okay, I'll do it. I'll do it. But I'm doing this for you. And you'll see."
Yeah.
During this time, my granddaughter was born. And the relationship lasted for a while this time. And then something happened that caused some more friction with, all the, you got to imagine the dynamics, how difficult it was for her with her sisters and mother, all these things. It was not an easy thing trying to, be out of the middle of it, but being put in the middle. And so, I would never ask about anybody. That was part of the deal. I don't ask about them. And she says, they can't ask about you.
Yeah.
But once again, it ended. And I can't even remember what year that was. I think in 2008, maybe. Fast forward, 2015, my oldest daughter, her relationship was on again, off again, because she was just angry. Since she never knew me, she was just angry. I met her when she was 15. I tried to develop a relationship, and once she realized that, she wasn't going to get money from me all the time, that that upset her. And one time she called and asked me for money, and I told her I couldn't do it. And she says, "I'm going to sue you for back child support." I says, "Well, honey, I've already paid the state of Iowa tens of thousands of dollars in back support that they've been paying your mother in welfare checks."
Right.
And so she she hung up the phone on me on that one.
Yeah.
In 2010, she reached out and told me she'd been diagnosed with cancer, small intestine cancer. And we started to develop a good relationship. She died from that cancer on January 29th, 2015. In 2017, I'm captain with my airline based in Houston, Texas. I live in Vegas, so I'll catch a ride every time I go to work, out of Vegas down to Houston. And on home on time off one day, my wife asked me, says, "Well, honey, what are you going to do if she ever contacts you again?" Meaning my daughter that I've had the on again off again with. And I just told her, I said, "Honey, I can't do it. I just can't do it again." And this time she says, "I understand." I'm like, "Oh, really? Why, thank you." Normally she put pressure on me to do it.
Yeah.
The next morning, I'm getting ready to go catch my flight to Houston to work a night flight to Detroit that day. It was the only flight I had to work on the first day of a 4-day trip. I'm saying my morning prayers, and I kid you not, it's just like you're hearing my voice right now. It says, "Pray for your children." And I thought, I don't have children. They don't want anything to do with me. They don't want me. Therefore, I do not have children. And it came again. Pray for your children. And I kept saying the same thing in my head. And I mean, each time I heard that, it was more firm. It was more pleading. Pray for your children. And I finally, okay, I'll do it. And I don't know what I said, but I did it. And that's the first time I'd mentioned my children in prayers in years. And but I had no clue why that happened. So I go to work, do my Detroit overnight. First flight of day 2 of a 4-day trip was going back down to Houston in the morning. And I don't know what other flights I had to work after that one, but I'm walking up the jet bridge after deplaning the passengers. My phone rings, and it's a phone number I'm not familiar with. And it was this daughter. She'd been divorced for a little while. Her and her ex-husband and my grandson that I'd never met were living in Florida. She and my granddaughter that I had not seen since she was like 2.5 years old, maybe 3 years old, were living up in the Northeast. The children's father was in an automobile accident, killed. Grandson I've never met was lying in a hospital with a big gash in his front so big that his internal organs were exposed. Several broken bones. He's in a coma. They don't know if he's going to live or not. Her mother was not able, the mother of my daughters was not able to go down there, and her sisters were not able to go down there. And she told me this, what had happened. She just needed some support. She's sitting in this hospital in Florida with her son, staying in the Ronald McDonald house, and my granddaughter's down there with her. And she just says she just needed some support. And I says, I'm on the next flight. And, I didn't try to catch a jump seat or, get a standby seat in the back if there was any open. I bought a ticket just to be sure. And so the first time I laid eyes on my grandson is him lying in a hospital bed, not knowing if he was going to live. But he made it. He's doing great. Kid's growing like a weed. He's 11 years old now. He was 7 when I first met him and had his 8th birthday in the hospital. There, he stayed in hospitals for about 3 months before he was able finally to go home after all that. If you've seen pictures of the automobile accident, you'd think, how on earth did he even survive? It was truly miraculous. And my granddaughter, every, I'd give my daughter breaks, and my granddaughter and I, I'd take her out to eat, and just do some things with her so that my daughter could rest. And every time this child opened her mouth, I was expecting her to say, Grandpa, where have you been? Why haven't you been around? Not once did that child say anything like this. Not once. She just accepted me and loved me. She even adored me. That wasn't going to last very long. As last year, June 10th, 2023, this beautiful child at the age of 15 ended her own life. She too helped me so much to learn about love, because hers was unconditional for me. Just unconditional.
Mm-hmm.
Never questioning, never wavering. She was such a good example of how to love others. So what would I change? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Just be a better person. The choices we make, the decisions we make can cause misery in our lives or create joy. It's truly our decisions that dictate how we're going to go through life. Is it going to be a life of misery or a life of productivity and happiness? That's truly what it boils down to.
Collin, for a dad that finds himself in a somewhat similar situation with their children and their grandchildren, and maybe they don't feel like they have that open door or communication the way they want it. What would you say to that dad? Like the phone rings and they don't know if they want to make another attempt at building a bridge with their kids. You obviously did allow that call to come through and you responded.
Well, I didn't know who it was when
yeah.
I didn't know who it was when she called that day with in when I got off the flight. I just was a number I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And with that, even though I said, I wasn't going to let her back into my life, it was game changing. It was
right.
Yeah, bottom line, when it came down to it, she needed me.
Yeah.
She needed somebody. And I was the one who was there for her. And that's one thing that is so important to her right now, that I was there for her.
Yeah.
And that's why that relationship is still getting stronger and stronger every day. Because she knew, bottom line, when it came down to it, after all those years and on again, off again, whatever it was, that I came there for her. The best thing you can do is be there for somebody and treat people. I've learned a big lesson during COVID. My last flight as an airline captain was in January of 2020. I came home. I'd had an overnight in Guadalajara, Mexico. And just one flight that day to work on day 4, back into Houston. Caught the first flight I could back home, and I was home before noon that day at Vegas time. Next day, Montezuma's Revenge hit, and I did not drink the water. So somehow, I don't know how it happened, but somehow I got it in me somehow, and it was bad. I went for days like that. And finally, my wife took me to the emergency room, and some of the scans that were done on me, doctors found a tumor on my left kidney, and it was cancerous. I had surgery February 20th of 2020, the 5th anniversary of the burial of my oldest daughter.
Mm.
But when you cancer, you hear that FAA, okay, we got some issues. So I was grounded. And then some of the medications that I had to be on it, I was grounded. And so I was home the entire time during all the bad days of COVID. And we had all my friends were out there working. They caught it. They took it home to their families. So all my pilot friends had caught COVID, and their families had all got it. And my wife and I, we've never gotten it. We stayed so isolated for 2 years. I mean, very isolated. When we got groceries, we order online, go to the grocery store, they load them up in the back. And for months, I was taking bleach and stuff and cleaning stuff off before we took it in the house, because my wife is at risk. She was in an at-risk category, and I could have lost her, so we were very careful. But the thing that was so wonderful about it, though, my wife's first day of working from home was March 12th, 2020. And my wife is one of these people that she doesn't understand that time does not stand still for her. Mm. When she's ready to go to work and she's, driving off, when she leaves the house to go to her office, she's doing, getting around hectically and says, "Oh, I'm going to be late." And the night before the first day of working from home, she's just so excited. She's not going to have to rush in the morning. She can eat a leisurely breakfast and just walk in and get her computer out. Guess what? I've got a client in 10 minutes. I'm going to be
late. Well, she's consistent. That's good.
So I went into the kitchen, and she big time has bagels in the morning. So when I prepared her a bagel with the cream cheese on it, and I went in and I took it to her, and her face just lit up. And she was so excited that her husband had done this for her. And all I could think was, boy, I hope I don't have to do this for 2 whole weeks. Because we're going back in they're going back in 2 weeks. 3 years later now, I'm still doing things like that.
You're an expert bagel maker. I love it.
Well, not just that. I made her omelets. I've been doing the laundry for the last 3 years. Dishes I do every night, and then empty the dishwasher every morning. So for 3 years, I've been doing all this stuff, and it's like all of a sudden the light of love just went from a small ember to a full force fire of love.
I love it, Collin. I love it.
It has been amazing. It has been amazing. It's been the last 3 years have been the happiest of our married life together.
Nice.
Yeah, we have disagreements like everybody, but we really don't argue. We disagree, we work it through. Sometimes we just have to agree to disagree.
Yeah. So, Collin, for dads, fathers listening today to our episode, what kind of things would you suggest to them? How can you do a practical thing to be a good partner in your home for your spouse? It sounds like you got some really practical things you do that really have a great impact.
You don't just say you love somebody. Greece has 3 words for love. in the Greek language, and I can't remember all. I just remember one of them, and it's agape.
Mm-hmm.
And agape is a verb.
Nice.
It's it's not saying you love somebody. Anybody can look at somebody. Oh, I love you.
Right.
And but if you don't back it up with action, those words are meaningless.
Right.
And the other day, I was taking my wife and her breakfast into her office that we've made for her to work from home. And I brought it up and I looked her in the eye and says, you know what? I love you. And she says, I know. I know, she says.
That's a good feeling.
Yeah,
That's a good feeling.
it is. It really is.
So love is an action. It's a verb. Something we do, we show, we demonstrate. I love. It's a great. That's a great way to kind of put a bow on our conversation, Colin. But one thing we haven't talked about before we go is the fact that you, in your amazing setup for those that are watching, your amazing setup is you do voiceover work and you help people. I watched a cartoon with you as some sergeant or something.
Oh yeah,
It
that's
was so good.
Total Drama Island was big back, years ago.
Yeah.
Then it was canceled. I mean, it was, it's one of those, what do they call it when something gets a cult following kind of.
Yeah. So good.
Oh, yeah, Total Drama Island had one of those, and there's a gentleman who was an animator on a lot of big projects that came out of Hollywood that loved Total Drama Island, and he is trying to reboot it. And what you saw is Total Drama Oske Island.
Okay.
It's a different cast of characters than what there was on the original TV, on the original show. It was on the Cartoon Network and just all over the world, actually. And I played the role of Chief. He's, like he says, he's just military type guy. He owns the island. And, they all come on the island and they compete, and people are thrown off the island. Just, like it's a cartoon spinoff of Survivor.
Love it.
And I'm the one that orders everybody around and tells them, this is going to be your challenge. Here's what you do.
It's so weird to hear your voice and know the video and go, that's amazing. I can hear now, and every time I see the video now, I'm going to think of you and on the mic. That's so cool. It's so amazing to meet somebody who does voiceover work and things, and you help people too. Like looking at your website, that's what you're working on right now. You're looking to help people as do voiceover for commercials, for book readings, all kinds of stuff you can help people with. Talk a little bit about that as well.
Well, the big thing that I'm working on now is, I told you my love of public speaking that I found. But I always had this thought, that I truly believe it's a gift that I've been given for public speaking. I always thought, there's got to be a bigger message. It's not just for announcing rodeos, and I've done some stand-up comedy. It's not just for, making people laugh. I got a greater call in life, because there's been a handful of times in my life that I literally was in seconds of death, if not a split second. One time as a child, I was caught in a whirlpool in this lake, and I was spinning round and round, and I thought I was terrified, and I tried to get out of it and I could not. And a gentleman reached in and he grabs my arm and he pulls me out just before I probably would have taken my last breath. And our family was there on a family reunion, had this big picnic area, and I went running up to my parents and I told them what happened. There's nothing like that in Lake Manawa. And she didn't believe me. So I went to the picnic area next to ours to go find this man, because that's where he'd come from. And I talked to people, he had this on. Nobody knew who I was talking about.
Wow.
And then as a young adult, I'm traveling to rodeos, and caught a ride in one of the tractor trailers, was hauling stock to rodeo. I caught a ride with them and pulled over on the side of the road to go to this convenience store across this highway to get some snacks and stuff. And I was standing right in front of the truck, starting to step out onto the highway with my view blocked of oncoming traffic. And somebody yelled out to me, "Get back!" And the second I turned to look at him, I just, that twist to my shoulders, caused me to step back just an inch or two. And right when I did that, I could feel the air off of this car going like 60, 70 miles an hour rushing by me. I was just, if somebody would have not have said something, that would have taken my life. And I've got, some other things that, similar, but, and I've always wondered, why have I been saved? When my granddaughter's stepfather called, he was using my daughter's telephone, so it showed up with her name on caller ID. And I answered the phone, "Hey, honey," and when I heard his voice, I knew something was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he told me, I was just wailing and screaming and crying harder than I ever had in my entire life. But within the first few seconds, in all this pain, the thought came to my head says, this is what you're supposed to do. Be an advocate for suicide awareness. So I'm putting together a public presentation for doing public speaking engagements. And that's where I'm going to be using my talent. I've recently also became a spokesperson for the Malinois Foundation. Malinois Foundation, they train and donate service animals to people, to veterans, to first responders, to women survivors and children with disabilities. As my wife and I, we talked about a dog from time to time, and my wife thought, that might be good, for some of the things I'm going through. So I looked up emotional support animals online. And I discovered that emotional support animals, they don't need training. Although you see these people, people are throwing money at these places that give you a certificate that says that your dog is an emotional support animal. Well, that's like, on the airlines, you remember the one where the peacock?
Yeah.
Look up peacock and airlines. And somebody tried to say, that's my emotional support pet. No, the airline, finally the FAA cracked down on it.
Yeah.
No emotional support animals. Service animals, yes. But there's a limit to service animals as well. Yeah. But the difference between what a service animal actually does something for somebody, like let's say a return vet who has these horrible nightmares that they're walking around in, sleepwalking, what do they call those? Night terrors. And they can be dangerous to themselves or others.
Yeah.
The dog will know what's going on and wake the person up. Or even in a nightmare in bed, the dog can wake them up, can help steady them if they're dizzy from medications. They're just all like me. I'm diabetic, and a dog can tell me when my blood sugar is dropping rapidly. Yeah, it is absolutely amazing. But I called a place. I found for people who need a dog for mental health purposes, they're called psychiatric service dogs. So I called, because I still have nightmares from my childhood. And then, things with losing my granddaughter and my daughter, it's been pretty tough. But I called a place that's called Dog Training Elite, just to ask them, about training an animal like this. And she told me that a lady I talked to says I need to talk to the CEO of the company, and it's the Malinois Foundation. That's how I got hooked up with them. But they train these animals. They've got locations with dog training elite all across the country that train these animals and donate them. And the research that I did on these psychiatric service dogs is amazing. Of all the people, I need to find out how many people have them, but it's a lot. There's probably thousands of them out there by now that are fully trained. And of all the people who have a psychiatric service dog, 82% of them report a reduction in suicidal thoughts. After 18 months, 1/3 of them no longer meet any of the criteria of PTSD.
Mm.
And 92% report a reduction in their medications. These animals can be life-saving.
Right. Right.
And it's just amazing what the foundation does. I'm just so excited to be a spokesperson for them. It's amazing what the Malinois Foundation does.
Amazing. We'll put links to them in the show notes so people can go and support them as well. I'm sure they take donations through their website.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. Donations, or if somebody knows or is somebody themselves who wants to apply for one of these amazing creatures, then there's a link to put in an application as well to see if you do qualify. They have one now in Salt Lake. They have one in Salt Lake office that they're training to detect migraine headaches for a woman. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just
amazing.
It truly, truly is. And plus the comfort, so you not just get the comfort, and they're also trained to be out in public. Emotional support. There's a post on Facebook where, get your certificate and your emotional support. Your furry friend can go with you anywhere. Well, no, they can't. There's just so many places that think that's a service dog when it's not a service dog. And so somebody asked, well, their dog was having problems being around people. And how did they handle that? It says, go to YouTube and you'll find videos on how to train them for that.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. Where these animals are trained by professional dog trainers.
Right.
Yeah.
Amazing. So, Collin, thank you so much for, first of all, being so open and transparent with us as listeners here on Dad Space, because your story as a dad, a grandfather, like I said at the beginning, some really big highs and some really big lows. But your perspective on fatherhood and being a grandfather, I think, can help so many people. So thank you for sharing that. Your stories from the saddle, riding these massive animals, none of which would qualify as a service animal, by the way, riding those bulls. I can imagine one of those.
You have time for one more story?
Yeah, I do. Let's do it.
Okay. My granddaughter's funeral.
Yes.
We're in Nebraska. The funeral home had asked for people to send in videos, or not videos, but pictures of my granddaughter. They'd received over 600-700 pictures that they had received. And the funeral home director, who, did not know the family, picked out pictures of my granddaughter to create a video out of for the visitation and things like that. 3/4 of those pictures was with my granddaughter, with my wife and I in Hawaii, at Universal Studios, in our home, the times that I had gone out and visited them when I was, take those free flights and spend time with them. And now all of a sudden, from my other 3 daughters, all of those children, all these other grandchildren, suddenly know who I am.
Mm.
After the funeral on Saturday, I'm standing next to my granddaughter, lying there, and a daughter from my youngest daughter came up, and of course, I'm a wreck standing there. And this little girl, she's probably 10 or 11, maybe, I don't know. Itty bitty thing. She comes walking up. Do you need a hug? Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
And the internment was going to be the next day. We're at a country cemetery a half mile from the house that I grew up in, out on a farm. And on Saturday, my oldest daughter reached out to me saying that one of her children wanted to meet me. And so the next day at the internment, we're sitting there before things get going, and my wife leans over to me and says, honey, do you realize that this is Father's Day and all 4 of your daughters are here?
Mm.
And after my daughter came up to me with her child, and this is 16-year-old girl that she looks like she's 12, and she's just this fun, adventurous child. And we get introduced, and she looks at me and she says, are you a good man now? And I just thought it was so good to look into her eyes and say, yes, I am.
Mm.
And she's good. And she hugged me. And then the son from my youngest daughter came up to me and says, can I hug you? I said, oh, yeah.
Nice.
So I still have hope that I'll get to be a part of these other grandchildren's lives. But patience and love, there's love. There's so much love and hope in the world when so many people think there is not.
Right.
You just got to sometimes be patient and just got to know where to find it.
And Collin, you're demonstrating that for us here on the podcast. I want to thank you for making time for us to share your story.
Thank you.
So inspiring. Everyone go check out the website. I'll have all the links in the show notes and everything for Collin and for the great foundation that are helping people with great animals as well. Collin, again, thank you so much for making time to be on Dad Space.
Thanks for listening to Dad
Thank you,
Space
David.
today.
I appreciate it.
Check us out on all our social media, YouTube, all that great stuff. You can find us as Dad Space Podcast. Real simple. Dad Space Podcast, whether you're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, even YouTube. Email us, dadspacepodcast@gmail.com. We're always looking for great guests to come on the podcast. If you have any feedback for us, let us know here at Dad Space. Looking forward to connecting with you on the next episode, right here of Dad Space. Follow us on your podcast app for more. Cheers. To you, Dad. Thank you.